Welcome to the QuadMid podcast. My name is Matt to the Jack, aka Scott. I am back with my fellow compadres in this week's installment of the podcast. Guys, it's been a week. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well.
Very good. Very eventful week.
Started a brand new job.
Oh, it's crazy.
Same, actually.
Yeah, I actually bought a house and got a different job. You know, it's just I feel like I've been through
Really,
three.
you're not doing cybersecurity for Buffalo Wild Wings anymore?
No. Well, that's in the last week. That's changed. So
Yeah, in the last week.
yes, it feels like there's been almost 3 years of time in this last week. It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I mean, I
I've never
graduated. No, go ahead, Bailey.
I've never felt like 3 years of time has passed in a week more than this.
I'd agree.
Ditto. I graduated college. I got a job. Bought a new car. I moved all in a week,
Wow.
dude.
That's
Wow.
got to be some
It is
sort of
good.
record.
I know.
That is impressive.
I was sitting there thinking, like,
I should do something with my life.
exactly, and it
In a
just.
week.
And so he did.
And so I did.
Did you guys do any gaming in that 1 week?
Lots of gaming.
Wow.
Lots of
Let's
gaming.
talk about that, Tad. What game have you played most, specifically in the last last week?
Probably oh man, I've played a lot of games. Played some Hogwarts Legacy. Still playing Hearts of Iron. Been playing Hell Let Loose.
Hogwarts Legacy. Did that come out this week?
That did come out this week.
Wow, I thought it'd been. I don't remember it being out for a year. I mean, this week, but
Yeah.
we can probably stop that joke.
I pre-ordered it, so I got access to it a few days early, and good time.
I like it.
You can also say good time. I enjoy thoroughly being a wizard.
Hell yeah, dude. No, it's, I guess to give a quick overview, I've like 30 hours or so in. I think it's got enough that the bookies will really enjoy it. But at the same time, it's like detached enough from the books that I feel like you can still go in pretty blind and enjoy it. And it's just got a lot of fun RPG elements, like a combo combat system. There's like talents you can level up. There's gear and you can upgrade. There's like your own little space that you can build in. It's a good time.
I thoroughly enjoy it. It has been a blast revisiting Hogwarts in a way that, I haven't done since I was a child.
I do think that is the coolest part about it, is just getting to like see Hogwarts and find all the references that, are there. But again, even if you don't get those references, I think it's just cool shit,
Yeah, I really do think it works in that way of introducing people who are unfamiliar to the franchise, yet also, like you were saying, satisfying longtime fans and giving them a new way to experience something that they've probably been a fan of for many, many years.
I'll go as far as to say that I think this is the end-all be-all best Harry Potter game.
I don't know. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets will forever hold a special place in my heart.
Mine too. But
which actually brings me to one of my biggest points with that game, in the sense of that it just captured exactly what I felt as a kid. Playing as Harry Potter, running around Hogwarts, being up to mischief, and all that jazz, and what now looking back is kind of a really impressive way to do Hogwarts in a time that didn't exactly have the most groundbreaking games by any means.
no, but
the PS2 era and things like that.
Back
very,
then,
very cool.
Things just worked, Bailey.
Well, and it's the magic of video games, right? It's
Oh yeah.
It's a way to kind of experience media that not every form of media allows you to do. Like, books really are in my opinion, the only comparable way, because in a book you kind of imagine, right, what the characters are experiencing. You get to create that with your mind, but video games actually offer you an experience to live through where you are audibly hearing and feeling and seeing. The feeling is probably not what you're doing, but where you are seeing and hearing this universe, but at the same time it's not a real life experience, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree though. I feel like video games really give you the chance to interact in a very personable way and
Live it in a way that a movie will necessarily let you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this. We're going to do a little game here. I have seen...
I hate games.
I know. It's well established, Bailey. Considering the amount of gaming you've done in the last week, I'm surprised we even got you on, 2 weeks in a row on 2 episodes. But
True.
The experiment here will be, I've seen the first Harry Potter movie, probably the second one, and then, parts of the rest of them without completion. So you have 60 seconds. Tell me what this game is and tell me why I should be interested.
You're a wizard, Scotty.
All right, that was. You got 58 seconds left here, Bailey. Tad only did 2.
High school, but it's cool.
Okay, are we talking like somebody left the window open in winter, or?
I mean, like
window open in winter.
Yeah, cool. It was a bad joke.
Yeah, cool. No, if you've seen part of the books, like, or the movies. It's like you get to experience then what it would be like to be a student at Hogwarts, right, and go to classes and get into magic-based mischief. But at the same time, there is a larger, story going on that I don't think it's a spoiler because it happens so quickly, but like your character can see some ancient magic, and no one's like the professors.
It's the Harry Potter effect. You're a special character.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not just a regular student. You have a bit of mysticism around you.
Mm-hmm.
This time, it's not this evil Dark Lord who fears you. Rather, it's you're able to unlock things in the magic universe that others are unable to.
Would you say you're a bit of an anime protagonist?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's
definitely a bit of an anime protagonist.
That is a great way to describe what is happening in Hogwarts Legacy.
Got it.
And I mean, I would even say that's a bad thing necessarily, because
it makes your character relevant.
Yeah, and interesting,
and there's arguments to be had for both sides of that. If you don't want to be a special, if you want to just be a regular person, but in my opinion, that could be the next game by this team, because they're gonna have a job after this for sure.
Absolutely.
I don't imagine that we would not see.
Though this game has been in development for a very long time.
Good save, Bailey.
Yeah, I don't think this is the last game they're gonna make. In fact, if you told me that there was a Harry Potter designed by the same team where you are a regular student attending classes with challenges and things like that to create your character in this unique setting, I think that I would tell you that would sell like crazy.
You say it would sell like hotcakes?
Hotcakes on a cool winter day when somebody left the window open. Speaking of Windows, Steam is an application that runs on Windows, and another game that is available on Steam is Hell Let Loose. Tad, let's hear it.
Hell Let Loose is a first-person shooter to the likes of Squad, but it's World War II.
Okay, Tad, I like that. Now Bailey with more energy.
Hell Let Loose is not my favorite game.
I did
Sorry.
say more energy. I
Did
didn't
I
say
do
anything
it?
else.
I mean, you did. I feel like there was more energy there, but I got a little upset by
Yeah,
what that energy was
I could sense
directed
that
to.
coming from you.
Without to put the chicken before
don't
to put the
Don't
chicken
spoil
before
Hell Let
the
Loose for me.
before the egg here. Tad, what's it been now since we first downloaded that game? Has it been over a year at this point? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a fat minute.
It has. I think the overarching theme with that game when we first started playing amongst the boys in the Discord is, oh, this must be another one of those games that you guys are going to play for a month and then we'll never see again, right? I think I probably said that. It was maybe... I think maybe it was actually Bailey saying he had the game and was willing to play. I was like, okay, that's, Tad had it, Matt had it. I think Bailey was the third person. My rule of 3 is like, if there's 3 people consistently playing, I'll consider it. Funny enough, Bailey's probably played it 3 times since that announcement.
Yeah, I don't love that game.
Actually, I think that's how I first got it. Was as Bailey had said, and that he and his friend were looking at the game, and I looked at it and I was
a friend
like,
of mine from college thought it looked really cool, and people say game, and I say how high.
No, I'm looking. I just looked up at my transaction history on Steam. I purchased it December 23rd, 2021. So,
That-
going
I'd
strong.
say that's a game that you are very interested in.
I was, yeah, indeed.
That checks out.
I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's like Squad, but World War II. I like World War II. And that was about it,
I think for me, Hell Let Loose really captures the part of me that grew up on World at War, being one of the first games I put a lot of time into that wasn't, on the Game Boy. Call of Duty World at War, that is. I think, when you look at the shooter industry as a whole, a lot of it started out as homages to World War II. I think that was the biggest event, and that's what a lot of developers focused on when they were making games, right? In years past, a lot of, games have shifted away from that and going more modern, some even going into the future. And there have been games that, recognized people like myself or you, Tad, who had that nostalgia factor for World War II games and tried to capture it. I think Call of Duty World War II is one of those examples. There was a Battlefield game in there. But for me, I feel like they kind of missed the mark. They missed the magic that kind of felt. For me, Hell Let Loose hits that to a T. It's not so much, in gameplay elements as much as it is the immersion. I think the visuals, the open mic communication, the sense of teamwork, the gut-wrenching feeling you get when you hear a bombing run to start to go off. You look to the side and you just see your buddy's legs get turned into hamburger. That's the kind of feeling that, I don't know, it's not so much a describable feeling as it is just an experience. When you get in there, you get in the trenches, you get you get shot and the guy next to you is just screaming for a medic. It's I don't know, it's makes you feel, I think it makes you feel pretty
It makes you
immersed.
feel like Batman.
Not
Makes
quite.
you really feel like you're in World War II. No, but to kind of go off what you were saying, I agree. I think it's that dark, like, nitty gritty, right, of World War II. It's that, just makes it feel more immersive, if you will, because it's not like it's not sugarcoating anything. It's not like you're not some sort of super soldier or like any special, child like with Hogwarts Legacy. It's like you are literally a boots on the ground nobody, and
who's probably going to get his head blown off.
yeah, exactly. And it's a neat it's a neat perspective. There's like a push and pull to every game, and it feels good. Darn it.
I would say, kind of, I don't know, just talk about the gameplay experience. I will go games where I will literally not see anybody for 20 minutes, but I'm having.
See anybody?
I thought about
Whoa.
using that as a transition into this game earlier, Bailey, but I decided against it.
You know me.
I'm gonna save
Always helping
specifically referencing it to for our sponsors. But to get back on track,
Sorry for derailing.
Yeah, what the hell?
Now I'm less sorry.
to focus back up, I think I've spent 20 minutes in that game where I won't shoot at anybody. I'll just be running around, taking the longest flank angle or just sneaking through the weeds, and I'll be having an absolute blast. At the same time, we could be assaulting a point, and maybe I'll kill 2 people and I'll die 10 times. I'll still be having a blast. I think it's definitely a game that's about getting the most out of the people around you. I think it definitely benefits if you have some friends in there and you guys are, working towards the objective together. If you can manage to find some, random players in the lobby that are on this, same level of you, same level of enjoyment, as well as focus, I think that's kind of the best experience, right? But to put it in one sentence, I've never had more fun mindlessly running to my death for 20 minutes straight than I have playing Hell Let Loose. And that's the definitive experience for me. Is it's not necessarily about how many kills am I going to get, how many, it's about, throwing your body to the front lines to try and achieve an objective, and you're going to die. You never really feel safe in that game. I think the reality that you're going to probably get blown up by artillery, it'll probably 5 times minimum a game, is probably pretty realistic to what the period is, and it doesn't really shy away from what warfare is. It doesn't give you any illusions of it's going to be, this safe little, paintball field where no 1,000-pound bombs are going to get dropped on your head. It's very much you're in a war zone, and you're going to be lucky if you don't die 10 times, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think too, just to touch on as well, the community of that game is overall fantastic. It's got its less than desirable folks, but everyone there is just like genuinely having a good time. For the most part, people are very open and willing to talk to you and work with you if you're new, but they're also like, they can be serious if that's what you're looking for, but they can also just, be goofy and fun. And I know one of my favorite things to do is after a bombing run, a very common strategy is the commander will call in a bombing run on a strong point, and then there's like a carpet bomb that drops the bombs in, and then after that the enemies soften up, so everyone charges in and attacks. And I don't think I have it with me at the moment, which is a little sad, but I bought a World War I replica trench whistle, and I'll after the bombing run, I'll blow the trench whistle and scream "Auf Lauden," which is charge in German, and everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, some people absolutely hate it. But, it's just that fun, immersive, like, yeah, my roommate definitely hates it, but it's just that little fun.
I think Tom loves it when you're playing, but...
yeah, probably hates it when he's not playing. But it's just that little fun extra, like, immersive element, that over the top boys, right? And then I can't tell you too, like, how many times I've crouched behind a wall and like got out the trench whistle because here comes the bombing run. We're gonna make our charge, and then I scream charge and start blowing the whistle and poke my head up and immediately get head tapped, and everyone's just cracking up because here's this fucking like guy tried to rally everyone together and he immediately got shot, and then I could just see no one attacking because I was the one stupid enough to stick my head up out of cover and
You know what I
get it
can't.
blown off.
You know what I can't help think of, Tad. A little bit of spoilers for Attack on Titan. If you haven't seen this part of the show at this point, I'm sorry. In season 2, I believe the commander Airfin, the blonde guy, is charging. Tells everybody they have to charge to go save the main character Eren, and he runs into the fray, and then he gets his arm bitten off by a Titan. He gets dragged off, and everybody's like freaking out, like, holy shit, the commander's dead. And then he, without missing a beat, says, "What are you doing? I said charge!" And it's one of those most incredible moments. I feel that way so many times playing Hell Let Loose, because it's like, all right, this situation is hopeless, but goddamn it, we are throwing our bodies at this point. I don't care how many corpses pile up. And it's I know.
Fellas, on that note, I need to skedaddle. Next time we have the podcast, I'll talk about why I don't like the game. But I'm going to let you two continue on discussing it and your enjoyment, and I won't ruin anybody's fun today.
Alrighty. Same time next week, Bailey?
Yeah, next week.
Yes, perfect.
For sure.
Wonderful.
All right.
I am signing off, boys. I will talk to you soon.
Doses.
So I wonder what happens to the overlay. That's what happens to the overlay. Okay, it got a little bit...
How fucked?
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's at least a 6, is what I'll say. I can fix this, Tad. Do you want to fill time? And,
Sure. Do you want me to keep talking about Hell Let Loose?
Whatever you want to talk about. I think we've covered it pretty well, but...
All right. Well, another great World War II game. I don't know if we ever talked about it on the cast. I don't think we did.
Have we not talked about Hearts of Iron?
I don't think we've talked about Hearts of Iron. I don't think you were super into it.
Well, it was only a week. It was only a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you were super into it last week. But at this point, I feel like if Hearts of Iron is your kind of game, you already know what it is. But it's a Paradox Grand Strategy World War II game, and oh boy, it is fun. I mean, if it's your cup of tea, I feel like it's something you'll absolutely love it or you'll hate it. And I know that's very polarizing, but it's so complicated, and like I said, you'll love it or you'll hate it. I currently have 1,207 hours on it on Steam, and it's by far my most played game. It's just, I think for most people, it starts off just playing as Germany and trying to do what they couldn't do and win the Second World War. And it's fun in the sense that, just true to real life, you start off very strong. You get Czechoslovakia, you get Austria, you get Poland, and then you invade through the Low Countries, the Netherlands and Belgium and Luxembourg, and you sweep into France and capitulate them, and you take Denmark and Norway, and everything's going great, everything's going good, and you get this, drunk with power as the Nazis did in real life. And so then, of course, you got to attack your ideological rival, the Soviet Union, and it goes great, and you're loving it. And then all of a sudden, General Winter hits you, and your supplies get fucked, and the Soviets just keep reinforcing their front lines. And then you're noticing your manpower is getting, lower and lower. And then you're finally realizing that your partner, Italy, isn't doing as good as you originally thought they were. And it all turns on its head, and you lose. And you look back like, where did it all go wrong? I was kicking ass and taking names. But through trial and error, you eventually get it. And then you're like, then there's just so many other options you can explore. You can, play France and try to I still think try to stop the Germans. You can play the United Kingdom, you can play USA and try to make them not boring. You can, do so many different
Pat, are you implying
scenarios.
that democracy is boring?
No, but it's in a game about World War II. The United States didn't really do a whole lot until, well, they did a lot, but didn't do a lot that makes for fun gameplay, pre Pearl Harbor. And
Yeah. One thing I'll say, maybe from a different perspective than you, is I thoroughly enjoy probably playing underdogs. In fact, I honestly don't enjoy playing Germany or the Soviet Union really that much, or even Great Britain. Right? I think I'm somebody who enjoys taking a small country, and I think for me the thing that about that game that I get more of a kick out of anything is it'll put up news headlines as they would appear in that time and era. For people who aren't familiar, it's 1936 to 1950 is the time period you typically play in that game. You'll get, if you play the game to the letter of history, you'll get headlines like the fall of Paris, or the encirclement of Stalingrad, things to that nature. You can also get headlines like communist Mexico rises, or something like that. Workers on the workers on the Australian front have brandished their kangaroo and hammer and sickle flag and are ready to liberate the people.
And are now marching on, Canberra and Sydney, Australia.
It's a paradoxal history game is what it's categorized at, and my favorite part of that game is just, really playing on that paradox and trying to create unorthodox situations that would never have historically happened, and make more fun of it. Now that's to say, sometimes you can try to form the unified Arabia and claim everything as Saudi Arabia, and it can be the most painstaking process ever because Germany ends up invading the land you needed to click the one button. So you have to, after defeating the Allies, you have to then declare war on the Axis, and it's a whole big mess just because you wanted to click one button. But there's other scenarios that have worked well. I think it's entertaining to, I think if you're a history buff, if you really enjoy just looking, if you enjoy geography and you like looking at maps, I think it's a game that
it's a map game.
It is a map game. You can sink a lot of hours to it. What I'd equate it to is if you grew up, or maybe you still play Risk to this day, if that's the Risk, the classic board game, is something you enjoyed, Hearts of Iron just might be your cup of tea. It's obviously larger scale, and there's a steep learning curve, but if you've got patience and you've got that curiosity, it's definitely something I recommend. One thing I find myself learning, aside from World War II history that will never apply to any real life situations, I have a lot more knowledge of where countries are in the map. Granted, the borders are not similar to what they are today as they were back in that time, but you get a general sense of where stuff is. And of course, there's mods that will draw modern day borders and put modern day situations if you are so inclined. But it's just interesting to get a more global perspective. I think, I think it's easy to forget how many mountains there are and how big of an obstacle that is. You don't really think about, there's the Alps mountains, right? But you don't really think twice about it, but when you're playing Hearts of Iron and you're like, okay, I've beaten everybody except Switzerland, and you can't hammer your way into the Alps, you suddenly think about, holy shit, yeah, this mountain range is a big problem. Conversely, when you think about countries like, Poland or, Iraq, or even to give a more current example, Ukraine, they're very flat. They don't have mountains or lots of bodies of water or any natural barriers to protect them from invasion. Historically, they have been countries that have kind of been steamrolled in wars through it's not the fault of the people. It's not like they were asking for it. It's a fact of geography that they are at a strategic disadvantage when it comes to holding off outside invasions. So I think the game does a good job of just really demonstrating realistic parameters of what it's like to try and manage an army at a high level, and I think for me, one thing I really enjoy is I like being able to go through all the theoreticals and, have fun with these situations without having to, think about the actual people that died, because every time you watch a World War II documentary or a video on that, the matter of the fact is millions and millions of people died, lives were destroyed. In this, it's pixels on the screen. Nobody is being harmed by what's going on. And that, for me, I think you're allowed to enjoy this stuff without necessarily, having to deal with the moral dilemma of it all. And so I think it's a good outlet for that. And also, I don't want to make light of joking about invading other countries or people's sufferings, but I do enjoy this game.
Definitely. No, and you touched on a little bit, but the modding community for this game is fantastic. I mean, there's the Millennium Dawn mod that takes place like during the Cold War, and you can start like basically in the 56, right before Korea, all the way to 9/11 and the War on Terror, and again then play out a more modern scenario of now it's not about huge, large scale invasions, but more about smaller proxy wars and espionage and controlling the market and all sorts of those other, that again, it was very bad in reality, but makes for fun gameplay.
It does.
I still think one of my favorite things to do in Hearts of Iron is play the Soviet Union and having the hindsight of, living in the year 2023, knowing for a fact that the Germans are coming, right? And preparing for that onslaught and that, typhoon wave, building fallback lines and like building factories that aren't in places that are going to be capitulated, and just trying to hold out long enough that they burn themselves out, right? And then you can get that pushback, and it's just, it's so damn satisfying.
Or other times you can, play as Sweden and accidentally go in on Norway, who's guaranteed by France. The France capitulates you, and suddenly your entire tree is focused. But luckily, unlike real life, you can go into console commands and say, actually, I didn't want that to happen. And then suddenly you call your ally, Romania, into the war, and their entire country gets ran down, except for the boys in Lubachenko. Hold it down. But outside of that, your capital is storming. And then suddenly Sweden, who is a massive underdog, storms in, against front lines who only have single divisions defending, because they're all focused on trying to take down those 14 divisions in Lubachenko. And you march your way into Berlin and kick those Nazi asses.
You save the day, baby. Oh. It is a game that you are basically able to sink, in theory, infinite amount of hours into. It's gold standard of replayability.
It is. You know what it doesn't have, though, is Chinese spy balloons, Tad.
It does not have Chinese spy balloons.
Those have also popped over, just the last week here. It's kind of crazy.
And since I know you want to talk about that anyways, I just saw today that, this was, the fourth thing that was shot down.
Yeah, I have an unnamed acquaintance who is convinced that they are aliens. I just have to chuckle at that. But
But what if, dude?
I think the time in playing Hearts of Iron puts a lot of, it changes the way I think about a lot of this stuff. And it's, especially the climate we live in. And, why is history important? I think history can sometimes inform the future.
Absolutely.
Tad,
I mean,
we recorded that podcast that we never uploaded almost a year ago at the start of the conflict in Ukraine. I'm kind of curious to go back and listen to that, but
just to see,
what did we get right? I think we talked about, it's either going to be a quick conflict or it's going to be something that drags out for a very long time. There was no, it was either going to be like a month or too long or it was going to be years, right? Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be the latter. But I don't know. It's interesting. Do you look at it and you think, okay, is this going to be, Russia had their failed experiment in Afghanistan, right, where it clogged on for years, and then at the same time, U.S. armed the Afghans, and then years later, the United States had to deal with, their own problems with Afghanistan, and they ended up getting shot at with the very same weapons they had given to those people decades later. And you're looking at this like, oh God, are we going to deal with the same, 20 years from now, are we going to be dealing with the same thing? I'm not insinuating anything. I just look at history and I'm like, God, please, no, please.
Yeah, not again.
Yeah.
I really doubt it in this case, but
yeah.
And like you said too, with that, I was appalled. Really, I think is the best word, at how many adults I had talked to, either friends of mine or even just coworkers, that did not realize that Ukraine was first part of the Russian Empire and then part of the Soviet Union, and so because they would hear that Stalin. Well, that gives you my opinion of
old Vladimir.
Yeah, Vladimir. If I'm confusing him with Stalin, but they didn't understand why Stalin. God, I did it again. Why Vladimir Putin said that he had his claims that Ukraine was basically Russia, and I was like, well, it was part of Russia for a long time. Well, what do you mean? Well, the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and when you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, which, for us seems like lifetimes ago. But again, in the big picture of history, it wasn't that long ago. And I mean, even World War II, I'd still say that we, as the world is still reeling from the Europe's experiment with fascism and the consequences of Nazism in Europe and the world. I mean, and I think having that understanding of history doesn't justify things, but it gives context and allows us to make better informed decisions about what to do.
It's a matter of perspective, really. I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sensationalism in the media. There's a lot of, hands in the air, screaming around, everything's on fire. Things have never been as bad as they are right now. It's just wrong. They've been much worse.
They have been much worse.
Now
that things now are great and everything's good, but again, it's been much worse.
Yes. Very much agree. For instance, there once was a time when video games didn't exist. And I know in this last, this last week, I've definitely done a lot of gaming. Tad, you've done a lot of gaming too in this last week. What's another game you've been playing recently that you want to talk about?
We talked about Hell Let Loose, we talked about Hearts of Iron, we talked about Hogwarts Legacy. Is there a game in mind you want me to drop that I'm just not thinking of, or?
Let's see. We're talking about like global catastrophes. Maybe Overwatch 2? That's kind of on topic, right?
True.
Oh,
I
somewhere
haven't even
Dylan is
played any
screaming
of.
internally.
Yeah, I haven't even played season 3 yet.
There's a season 3. Wow.
Yep, we're on season 3 already.
Interesting. I I enjoyed that game. How long was the first season? A month and a half, maybe? Does that sound right?
Yeah, something like that.
I enjoyed the game for exactly that long. After that time, I think as the longer I played it, the more reminders I got of why I stopped playing Overwatch.
Mm,
The game does a great job of reminding you why it is frustrating. Maybe is a good way to put it. I, you know, I wondered, do you think maybe to keep this topic not just shitting on Overwatch the entire time, how did you feel about the way they released it and marketing it as Overwatch 2 instead of giving it just saying, hey, we're updating the game, because it's very much the same game with different patch parameters, right? And
it's, I mean, as the joke said, I agree. It's right. They talked about a lot when they were marketing it as Overwatch 2 as this like single player experience, which if ever comes out, I think would warrant a 2. But as of right now, it's Overwatch 1.5. I mean, I don't think any changes were substantial enough to have it be considered a new
And
experience.
I think the 2 really is just disingenuous from the side of the I don't the publisher, from a publishing and marketing standpoint. I think 2 is disingenuous. You could have given it a name like, I don't know, Overwatch Reloaded, or I don't know, some marketing guy can think of a more creative name than I, but you don't have to call it 2. You can give it
No.
a different title that still serves the same purpose, but instead you put a new coat of paint on it, except the coat of paint isn't even that new, and you take one less character per team and say this is a new game. It isn't. We've been saying a lot of bad. I will say I did have some fun with that game. I enjoyed playing the competitive experience. I did not I did not really enjoy having only one tank on a team. As somebody who enjoyed a lot of those off-tank roles, I think that comes from some of my time playing League, where I very much like the bruisers, where I could do damage. Well, my only job wasn't just being a meat shield, so other people could do damage. I could do damage myself. That's the kind of gameplay I enjoy in games like that. It feels like the meta in Overwatch 2 is very much, you are going to play Reinhardt or are you going to get screamed at. But
Yeah, that definitely hasn't changed. And I think that's the other hard part, like with that game just in general, is like it's fun. I don't hate it, but like at the same time, it's like I have no desire to go back to play it. Like
yeah,
it just
it came and went.
yeah, it feels bad because I feel like I mean I sunk a lot of hours into Overwatch 1, and I feel like if Blizzard were to ask me like, hey, we see you haven't launched Overwatch 2 in a while now, like, what could we do to bring you back? I don't know what I'd tell them. And
Do
that's
better.
just that feels bad.
Yeah.
I do think, and maybe this just comes from my kind of distaste for battle passes in general, but I feel like moving. I feel like I want loot boxes back, and that's something I'd never thought I'd say. But God, I hate this battle pass.
I think
It
League of Legends, say what you will about the game, one thing it does really well is I think it gives you a lot of opportunities to earn, skins, content you'd have to pay for just by playing the game. I think Overwatch had the exact same system in the first release, and they switched to a free-to-play model, but they got rid of that system. And I think, one thing you need to be careful with is when you're when you're making changes like that to the game, is the progression system needs to mean something, I think. And if a progression system only means something if you spend $15 on the battle pass, well, either you're playing ranked and that's what gets you satisfaction, or you enjoy the game enough that it doesn't matter. Outside of that, if you're putting all the onus, if you're somebody who doesn't enjoy the game enough to just play the game for the game, and you're putting all the onus on competitive, well, it's all the more frustrating when competitive doesn't go your way, right? And it's just, if being competitive and ranking up is the only reason you play a game, you've either got to be, top of the charts, an absolute god at the game to enjoy it, or you're just not going to, I think. There's a third category for the insane people who are just absolute dog shit, but we won't focus on those people.
No. I think too, like, for someone like me, I love playing Reinhardt, right? He's my absolute favorite guy. And so when you see the battle pass and you see there's a new Reinhardt skin, but it's not on the battle pass, it feels bad, because then it's like, well, sweet, I can get this Tracer skin, but I never play Tracer. And not that there's anything wrong with Tracer. I'm sure, the people that do play Tracer enjoyed getting skin for her.
Actually, I'm already Tracer, so there is something.
Okay, well, I'll be Widowmaker then.
I'm already Widowmaker.
But then for me, it's like, well, now what's my incentive to even level up the battle pass, because the character I want to play doesn't have anything on the battle pass. So I don't give a shit about it. At least with loot boxes, I had, a dice roll of getting something I'd be interested in. But with, now with you just look at the battle pass and there's nothing, and it's like, well, fuck, I don't give a shit about any of this. And
yeah, they have lost the masses. That is for sure.
Definitely. And again, from what I saw with the single player stuff that they were kind of teasing, is that I mean, they had like perks, they had like different like genuine builds you would go. It almost looked more like a role playing game, and I thought that looked like a lot of fun. I've always really enjoyed the PvE events they do, whether it's like the Junkenstein one or more recently, the Halloween one they did. I know those aren't always your cups of tea, but I always thought those were a lot of fun, and I think the world of Overwatch is very interesting, and I want to explore that, but I never get the chance to when all I'm doing is pushing a payload.
Right.
And I guess that's just more so my style of gaming, but it's just, I think that's the best way. I think I've kind of already alluded to it, but it's just, I want a reason to play this game, and Blizzard doesn't seem to want to give me one.
You know what game is giving you a reason to play it, Tad?
What's that?
That's Divine Knockout.
Ooh,
actually, that's arguable, because their only progression system the only thing progression gives you is more heroes or characters or gods, I guess they're in that game. But let's talk about DKO.
DKO has been a surprising little gem that popped up. I'm not a big fan of fighting games, kind of in general. I enjoy Smash Bros for a bit, and then if I ever try to play online or with anyone that knows how to play the game, I get my ass kicked, and then I'm like, all right, well, that was about enough of that. But it's approachable enough that, and maybe it's just the matchmaking's that good, but it's fun. And the matches are quick, so you're never in some long, drawn out slog where you just keep getting beat to the wall over and over. Because we've been definitely encountered people that felt like they were way above our skill ceiling, and the match is over, you queue up and you go again, and that's it, it's done.
Yeah, it's so those who aren't familiar, DKO is a 3D platform fighter that has the same, percentage damage makes you fly farther until you get knocked off the stage, and that's a knockout. The same concept as Super Smash Brothers, only it's 3D. Yep. The characters are much animated, more in a bobblehead, and not necessarily cartoony, but that's really the best word I could use to describe it. Style.
I think chibi.
That's the aesthetic.
Anime terminology.
Yeah. So to give examples, you've got like Hercules. You can play as King Arthur. Thor is another character. Stuff like that.
Same developers as Smite. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, really?
Hi-Rez.
I did.
Hi-Rez.
It actually makes a lot of sense. The combat. I knew the combat felt a little bit similar. I'll say Smite was definitely an interesting concept. I had a roommate in college that was really, really into Smite. I felt like it actually played probably better on console than it did on PC. I'd wager probably DKO might be the same way if I've never plugged in a controller, but more on topic, I guess. It's one of those games that's a platformer. It's fun. You can grind a lot of games very quickly. And sometimes it's just fun to have that mindless beat the shit out of another dude with your buddies. Kind of fun. And that's what DKO is at its core.
And they have God Pass, not Battle Pass. But each God Pass is unique, and you earn unique, but there's some similarities. But then you earn little like minor passives that you can use to customize your god. And so if you're someone who really likes holding down heavy attacks, there's passives you can take for that. If you're not about doing big swing and energy, but rather just getting in there and chipping away before finally going in for the kill, there's stuff for that. It's cool. I enjoy it. I don't think it's anything that's necessarily going to wow anyone, but it's free still, I think. I thought I saw somewhere that it cost money, and I hope it doesn't.
Bailey, who died just a few minutes earlier, rest in peace, by the way. Before his death and before this podcast, he actually mentioned it looks to be $10 now. I can't confirm that, nor I certainly could. I can confirm that, but I won't. I'm not going to. If Tad acknowledges the price, I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear what he's saying.
It is still free.
And I think at that point, it's a good point to transition on to our next topic, which is, Tad?
Variety is the spice of life, but is it true with video gaming?
Oh, he's bringing up the poll. He's bringing up the Snapchat poll. I'm going to put the results on the screen now. And since I know nobody was probably having this open and actively watching the video results, I'll pretend they're there because you at best have this on a second monitor that you weren't paying attention to. At worst, you've got us in your earbuds while you're taking a shit and playing Clash of Clans. Actually, worse would be you're not even at this point, but
I'm gonna say that I take that.
I was gonna say that's not that bad actually. I'll chill out for the toilet viewers or primary monitor viewers alike. So Tad, I think to give some context to what we're talking about, Tad likes to post a lot of random stuff to the group chat that we have for QuadMid feed just to try and spark some conversation. His not his most recent, probably the most notable thing he's posted in recent time was an image that had a bunch of check boxes of 100 video games in total, and your score was simply tallied by how many games you played. I came in, I believe, with 36 out of 100. Tad was up there in 74, and Bailey gamer of all gamers. I'll play it once and then, I'll never play it again. He was at the top with 80 something. Tad, I'll let you offer a little bit perspective from your end, and I'll kind of argue my side first if you want to go first.
Sure. I like games. I like playing different games, and sure, variety is the spice of life with things. I just talked about that I have literally hundreds of hours or thousands, excuse me, in Hearts of Iron, but gaming is something I hold very dear in my heart. It's how it's unironically helped me through a lot of difficult times in life, and offers different escapes for people. And to me, it truly is a form of art, but it's different than a painting or a movie, because you get to interact with the art in a very special way, and sometimes very personal way, and change and do things how you would do it. And because I think too, we've all experienced watching a horror movie and being like, oh, well, why are they doing that? Why are they going there? And then you have
Not
no
to
one to blame.
sidetrack, but Cocaine Bear is definitely going to be one of those movies.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a writer.
So,
that's a writer movie if I've ever seen one.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's even without like discussing it with him, it's going to be the best movie of the best thing since Prometheus, right? Like
he'll be hiding the glaring reviews behind a cheeky smile. Him knowing full well the movie's awful, but he'll sell it to you like it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Sliced bread, yep.
Yep.
All righter.
On the other side, I will say I'm somebody who is much more, I would say, committed to a single game. Well, normally I'll probably rotate between a few games at a time, but typically I'm somebody who, I'll find something I like, and I'm sticking with that. I think it's evidenced by how much I played Hell Let Loose in the last year. I think it's evident by, how much I played Call of Duty in the past, before League of Legends. I think it's evident by how much time I have in League of Legends. I am very much somebody who I find my pony, and I'm going to ride that thing until it's dead and on the ground, and maggots are coming out of the eye holes. I'm gonna ride it till it dies, or at least it dies for me. It's not to say I don't like trying a lot of different stuff. I do enjoy trying things. I think it doesn't, I'm somebody who, I'm a simple man. I find something I like and I stick with it. And that's, I think the important thing to consider, at least for me, is when it comes to gaming, there's a lot of variety out there. I think we're fortunate enough to be enjoyers of an industry that is extremely rich and full of content and different things and options to try. I think gamers can be a very vocal and sometimes unappreciative community where we'll complain about every little detail, and if things don't, things load in 2 seconds instead of 1 second, you'll get a 400 character Reddit thread talking about how unplayable the game is. But at the same time, I think I enjoy gaming, and I think I appreciate all the effort and availability that's gone into making games that myself or you can enjoy. And it's a great way. It's not just a great way to pass time. It's a great way to socialize and meet people and spend time with friends. I know, Tad, if games didn't exist, I can't imagine, you and I would have been anything more than like a name in the yearbook to each other at this point, right? It's
sad, but probably true.
Right. And so, over this last week, I'm very glad we've had games to play.
Oh my goodness.
I hope that joke isn't lost on people. I have a feeling, Matt will probably listen through to this point. He'll get it right away.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll have to see who else the algorithm puts this video in front of, assuming I manage to get the upload out. But
True. No, I think that's too why I talked about it, being I I guess that's like definitely my gaming hot take, and definitely the thing I get the most snobby about is, there's so many different things that you can do and experience. Why would you limit yourself? But I know there's the people that do the same thing with like food. There's so many dishes you can try and taste. Why do you keep eating the same thing? Well, because I fucking like pizza. Let me eat pizza. Like. And
you know what's funny? I don't want to put words in your mouth, Tat, but I'm willing to bet I probably like more variety in food and will go out of my way to try new foods. And you're somebody who probably is, that I like pizza. Let me eat pizza guy. Different mediums,
yeah,
different vibes.
definitely. I used to work at a company called Rem Heartland. It's a part of the Mentor Network. A quick summary of my job description was I was a direct support staff, and I worked with adults with special needs in the public and helped them do daily tasks from balancing a checkbook to picking up groceries, to picking up medicine, and sometimes just hanging out, going for walks, basically whatever we needed to do that day. I had one client that whenever we would go through like McDonald's, would get the same order every time, no matter what, right? And if we went to a different restaurant, same order every time, no matter what. And my boss, my supervisor, told me that I needed to get them to try to eat more food. And at first, I didn't think anything. I was like, yeah, sure, no problem, boss. Right, I can do that. And it was not going well, and the client was very frustrated. I was very frustrated. And then it kind of just dawned on me one day that, like, wait a minute, I get like the same order every day. Why can't this person, And it seems very like arbitrary and like silly in hindsight, but at the time, it was a great debate until I just like kind of went, wait a minute, is this really a big deal that they do this? Because I don't think it is, And no, to that after that long-winded rant, I am very much. I order the same thing every time. I know what I like for food. That's what I want to eat, and that's what I'm gonna eat.
I agree. And Tad, of course, that experience happened in was that something that happened in with the last week, or were we talking 2 weeks?
I think like a week and a half.
A week and a half, gotcha.
Mm-hmm. No, that was funny though. And again, like I said, it's definitely my most like snobby game opinion.
Yeah.
But that being said, still not a big fan of racing games, so sorry to all the Need for Speed and Gran Turismo fans out there.
Mario Kart community in shambles.
Mario Kart's different. That's a kart racer. Come on.
Racer? I hardly knew her.
Got him.
Well, folks, I think it's about time where we wrap up. I sincerely appreciate that there's any human beings left on the earth that want to hear us motherfuckers talk about random shit, including Chinese spy balloons, but not limited to repeated jokes about our upload schedule. It's been a long time. I don't think it's been a lack of desire to do the podcast, but
life, gets in the way.
It does. Of course, you can expect to see another episode next week, and you can expect next week to be referred to ambiguously as, whatever time frame that actually it ends up being between now and whatever that time is in the future. So,
see, I just always assumed that people were listening to the podcast every week, right? And so you could that's the whole. You could just pick an episode and listen to that episode, right? And just do that every week.
I think they might run out of episodes though. I think we've only got like maybe 16 or 17.
Well,
rewatchability.
Yeah, exactly. By the time you realize, that you've watched all the episodes, there's no way you remember everything about the first one you watched. You can just go back and do it again.
Exactly, dude. Unlike Game of Thrones, our finale won't suck.
We promise.
I had my fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. Is this a bad time to announce that I'm actually working on the next Star Wars podcast?
Oh. Well, Tad, should we send it off?
Thanks for tuning in, loyal listeners. Have yourself a fantastic week, month, year, decade, however long it is.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in. This has been Scott and Tad, and for a little bit, Bailey. And as always, you have just been hot. Wait.
Wrong channel. Cut the video.